Right, we had rules at this forum, but we gotta follow them. Here's the question that was asked was, how does not people camping help people not be homeless? I'll tell you how. Because you do not police the shelters that you give all this money to. So if I don't put my dang stuff out and have my buddies watch it in my community that we've built on the sidewalk, I can't go to work today. You wanna know why? Because none of these shelters hold my stuff unless I play their game. Well, if I play their game, I'm gonna tell you like this, I'm here, I answered that question. That's why you gotta repeal the camping ban. You can't tell me that I'm unproductive when I can't keep my stuff somewhere to where I can have a consistency to be productive. But guess what? Me sleeping outside provides me at least that consistency to do such things. Playing the shelter game does not. I'm just here to speak to my homeless people, because I'm going to tell you down to one guy, I'm going to follow the rules again. He asked the question, what about the homeless people? What the homeless people? That's a valid question, bro. I don't give a damn what anybody says. And we are going to do that, but guess what? I can't go and give the secrets that the Lord gave me to build this nation. No, I got to build it with the no means I have. Make money with no money and do it legally, or else the Lord ain't going to bless me for what I got to do. Guess what? I can't tell people what I want to do because they'll have it shown up and everybody will make a show of it. Have a good one, people.
He makes so many great points. And the first one I want to get back to is gaslighting. When you tell somebody they're unproductive, and yet you don't give them the resources for them to be productive, that's gaslighting. Pretty sure. Second point is, I think I got onto this point yesterday, is you don't police the shelters that you give money to. And this again brings me back to Standing Rock. It's saying we have not granted easement to Dakota Access to drill under the pipeline, but or under the lake. But we're not actually going to send out anyone to police them to ensure that they're not doing that. Again, incompetence or corruption. Pick one. Either way, they need to fucking go. Let's keep listening.
The comment about why we have concentrated services here. So, every time we get those bulletins about, here's where folks can go for these shelters. I always think about every time those come out, the people who put them out should also go and stay in those shelters. Because that is not the solution just by saying that we've opened a warehouse or have mats on the floor. Working in the Denver County Jail with folks and providing services and classes, I have grown men come up to me with tears in their eyes and say, Lisa, help me. I am afraid when I get out. I know I'm going to go back to that life because that's all there is. Where am I going to live? I've got money for shelter vouchers and for transitional housing that I can't spend down, because if you give money for someone to stay, it's temporary. How do we make these permanent solutions? We've got Section 8 vouchers that we can't get rid of because landlords won't take them. So it's much bigger than just telling people, advising people, we've got enough shelter beds in the city. What are people complaining about? They don't need to live on the street. That's not it. And as far as why services are concentrated, you go to where the people need the help. And this is where the people live. Some years ago, and I don't know if this is still a true statistic, but it certainly was some years ago, when people got out of prison or jail, 80205 was the place they came back.
That's right.
The East Side, thank you. So we need to look at those services of where the people are and figure out how do we coexist rather than pushing people on.
So she makes a lot of great points there, and it's kind of a long clip. Before I get to it, I do want to say that we've had a couple of homeless people come to the mic already. We have a homeless man on the panel, and I want to make the point that this is exactly why the establishment so rarely gives people a mic or a voice, the ability to have their voice heard, the ability to have their vote count. Because when you do, we call them out on their shit. We vote them out of office because we know what they've done. If our vote really counted, Donald Trump would not be president right now. And I swear this is the only time you will ever hear me defend Hillary Clinton. She won the popular vote. If we went by the popular vote in this country, we would have never had Bush. We wouldn't have Donald Trump. We wouldn't have the fucking Iraq war. We wouldn't be bombing in over 7 different countries, some of the most poorest countries on the planet. This is why when we have the opportunity to speak, we need to show up and we need to keep speaking, yelling, shouting until they hear us, until they do something, until we vote them out of office and we become them. We, the people and the government, need to go back to being the same exact fucking people, because that's the whole point of government, that we the people are represented in those positions of power. And when we're not, we have things like the 99% versus the 1%. We have things like 50% of Americans only making $30,000 or less a year. That is a problem, people, when people on news are making $30,000 a day and then they wonder why we don't listen to them. Because they don't understand our problems, our life, our struggles. Because they make more in a week than we make in 5 fucking years. So a point she makes, I know I can get on a rant. A lot of the points she makes are about, I'm going to have to, I don't remember, I get so into it. Let's keep listening. Okay, so a lot of her points that she's making are, and I see this a lot when I'm moving, is no Section 8, no Section 8, no evictions, no felons. This is a problem when we have discrimination, on a level that is, I think this is a huge problem, is that it's deemed okay to discriminate in certain ways against certain people, but it's not for others in other ways. And she gets into the recidivism rate. This is another huge issue. And I'll get into this later, but we arrest people for being homeless. If they have drugs, depending on how much or how many times they've been arrested, it could become a felony. Then they go to jail. Then they have that on the record. They can't get a home. When they're released from jail or prison, transitional housing isn't effective. There is plenty of proof to show that. And sometimes, as we've seen, we just put them out on the street with $75 or $100. What are these? What? Like the cheapest house, the cheapest studio I could find in Denver was upwards of $700. We need to start reconsidering the entire system of criminal justice and what it is, because it has become a way to enslave an entire group of people. People who have made mistakes in their lives, mostly. Obviously, there are murderers and rapists and child molesters and blah, blah, blah. But there are people who have been in prison, 1, who were wrongly convicted, or 2, on drug charges. And there are people in jail still in Colorado, in one of the first states that ever legalized marijuana, and they're in jail for marijuana. Tell me how that's okay. I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but that's just kind of what happens. So let's move on. This next guy is gonna make a really great point. and it's going to go back to something I was saying earlier. So let's take a listen.
Hi guys, my name is Rick Roberts. I've been doing street work, homeless work for about 25 years. Lisa, you say great things. I want to tell you guys a couple things, okay? And I'm talking to you guys too. Because you have to understand, in 80205, it didn't always used to be this nice, okay? And some of you might say, it's not nice now. But the point is, you know why? I'm gonna ask a question, but I gotta tell you something first. The reason why it's as bad as it is right now is because you and me, we care about ourselves more than we care about people on the street. That's the reason, okay? Irregardless of anything else, it's not funding, it's not anything else except we don't care. Okay? So let's get that part first. Let's admit it. Let's say, look, we gotta change how we think about other people. Do you look at them and go, oh my God, I gotta cross the street. They might be bed bugged or something. Do you guys do that? It's okay if you do. We forgive you. We've probably done it too. The point is, until you see him as a person, you're never gonna see him as anything else. Those are a possible solution. I don't think they're good enough. Tents are a possible solution. I don't think they're good enough. If somebody wants to live that way and they're okay with that, maybe we should let them.
So, as you can see there where I ended the clip, that is the tiny house display that they had there. And right next to it was a tent, which I didn't realize what those were until he said that. But until you see these people as people, nothing's going to change. And this, again, comes back to the core problem with our government, people in power, private companies, is that they don't see their workers as people. They don't see them on the same level. And I believe Lisa Calderon got onto this earlier in my previous videos, is that it's a problem of equity. If we had been looking through the lens of equity, the camping ban would have never been passed in the first place. If we had been looking through the lens of equity, there wouldn't be homeless people in the first place. The problem with tiny houses, the problem with self-governed tent cities, the problem with homeless shelters is that we're not addressing why people are becoming homeless in the first place. And a woman gets into this later. What preventative measures are people taking? It's one thing to, say that it's a problem. It's another thing to address the problem by tiny houses and tent cities and homeless shelters and policing the homeless shelters and funding them. But that, again, keeps putting a Band-Aid on the problem, where we are not addressing the fact that rent is skyrocketing and wages are getting lower, other than in the few cities that are raising their minimum wage. Denver just passed a minimum wage in 2016 for $12.50, I believe, by 2020. How much do you want to bet by 2020 that $12 is really going to only have about $10 in buying power? We keep giving whatever we can, the little compromises and incrementalisms that we can, so that we don't actually have to help people in a substantial and effective way. We just help them enough so that they stop bothering us for now. So I think he's going to go on to ask about a certain building, the Gideon building or something like that. I'm not familiar with it. But I want people to pay attention to the question and the answer that he gets, because I think it's very, very important, and I've already said this a couple times, but I really want you to listen to what you can do. So take a listen.